Karen haggled relics for age dealer gave her fakes and she was publicly mocked. What would you do if your obsession with owning history turned you into a public fool? In the dusty heart of Old Town's antique market, Karen Voss strutted like she owned the place. Her sharp heels clicked against the cobblestones, her designer purse swinging with purpose. She wasn't here to browse, she was here to conquer. Karen, a self-proclaimed collector of ancient prestige, had a reputation for haggling vendors into submission, demanding relics at prices that made seasoned traders wince. Her latest fixation? A set of supposedly 2,000-year-old Mesopotamian tablets, rumored to hold secrets of forgotten kings. To Karen, they weren't just artifacts. They were her ticket to bragging rights at the next gala. But this time, her arrogance would unravel in a way she never saw coming. Karen's pursuit began weeks earlier when she overheard a whispered tip at an upscale auction. A reclusive dealer named Elias had surfaced in Old Town with rare tablets. She tracked him down, her eyes gleaming with greed. Elias, a wiry man with a sly grin, stood behind a cluttered stall, his fingers tracing the edges of 3 cracked clay tablets etched with cryptic symbols. Karen didn't bother with pleasantries. "How much?" she snapped, barely glancing at the relics. Elias named a price $50,000. Karen scoffed, launching into her usual tirade. "Do you know who I am? I've bought rarer pieces for pennies. These look like tourist trinkets." Elias didn't flinch. Instead, he leaned in, his voice low. "These are one of a kind, lady. But for you, I'll do $30,000. Final offer." Karen smirked, sensing weakness. After 20 minutes of berating him, calling his stall a flea market scam, and his relics questionable at best, she walked away with the tablets for $15,000, convinced she'd outsmarted him. The truth, however, was far uglier. Elias wasn't just a dealer. He was a master forger with a grudge. Years ago, Karen had humiliated him at a similar market, dismissing his genuine artifacts as trash and costing him a major sale. This time, he'd planned his revenge. The tablets he sold her were fakes expertly crafted, yes, but worthless. He'd spent months perfecting them, knowing Karen's ego would blind her to their flaws. She never bothered to authenticate them, too busy boasting to her socialite friends about her steal. Elias, meanwhile, tipped off a local historian, Dr. Mara Lynn, about Karen's purchase. Mara, a quiet but fierce defender of cultural heritage, was appalled by Karen's cavalier attitude towards sacred artifacts. She decided to investigate. The confrontation erupted on a crisp Saturday evening at the annual Old Town Antique Fair, where Karen had been invited to showcase her collection. The market was alive with chatter, the air thick with the scent of aged wood and incense. Karen stood at the center of a velvet-draped booth, her tablets displayed like trophies. She preened as onlookers gathered, her voice dripping with condescension as she lectured about owning a piece of Mesopotamia. But Mara was there, watching from the crowd, her notebook filled with damning evidence. As Karen's speech peaked, Mara stepped forward, her calm demeanor masking a storm. "Ms. Voss," she said, her voice cutting through the murmurs. "Can you confirm the provenance of these tablets?" Karen froze, her smile tightening. "Of course they're authentic," she snapped. "I bought them from a reputable dealer." That's when the twist came. A young vendor named Sam, who'd been quietly polishing brass lamps nearby, spoke up. "I know Elias," he said, his voice trembling but firm. "He's been bragging about selling fakes to a loud lady for weeks." The crowd gasped, heads turning toward Karen. Sam, it turned out, was Elias's estranged apprentice, sick of his mentor's shady dealings. He'd overheard Elias gloating about the scam and couldn't stay silent. Mara seized the moment, pulling out a magnifying glass and pointing to the tablet's surface. "These etchings are too uniform," she said. "Real Mesopotamian tablets have microabrasions from centuries of wear. They're barely a month old." The crowd erupted in whispers as Karen's face turned crimson. She stammered, "This is outrageous. You're all jealous of my find." But Karen's defiance only fueled her downfall. Enraged, she grabbed one of the tablets and hurled it to the ground, shouting, If I can't have them, no one will. The clay shattered, revealing a hollow Korea telltale sign of a cheap replica. The crowd's shock turned to outrage. Vendors whose stalls she'd bullied for years began shouting. "You've been scamming us forever," one cried. Another stall collapsed as Karen, in a blind fury, kicked over a table of pottery, sending shards flying. The market descended into chaos, with onlookers filming her meltdown. Mara stood firm, her voice rising above the din. "You don't own history, Karen. You've disrespected it." The final blow came when a local news crew, tipped off by Sam, arrived just in time to capture Karen's tantrum. By morning, the footage was viral, with hashtags like KarenFakesHistory trending across social media. Karen's world crumbled overnight. Her socialite circle, once dazzled by her collection, turned their backs. Invitations to galas vanished. Her name became a punchline in antique circles, mocked in blogs and forums as the woman who haggled her way to humiliation. Elias, meanwhile, disappeared, his stall empty by dawn. Some whispered he'd fled with Karen's $15,000, while others believed he'd donated it to a museum as a final jab. Sam, the young vendor, became an unexpected hero, praised for his courage in exposing the truth. Mara used the scandal to launch a campaign for ethical collecting, urging buyers to respect artifacts' cultural weight rather than treating them as status symbols. In the end, Karen was left with nothing but her shattered pride. The market she'd once ruled now buzzed with stories of her downfall, a cautionary tale etched into Old Town's cobblestones. Her greed had blinded her, and her rage had exposed her. Yet the story doesn't end with her defeat, it's a call to reflect. What drives someone to value status over truth? Could any of us fall into the same trap? Share your thoughts. Was Karen's humiliation justice? Or did the market's mob go too far? Let's talk about where ego ends and accountability begins.